Panthers, 1986. Was that where you were born in Panama? Or did you go there because your dad's taught there?
Well, the reality is that after my sophomore year at Jamestown, George Jamestown, very big school.
Yeah.
I had the football coach saying, Mike, if you're going to see some time on varsity, you better focus on football exclusively. Basketball coach saying the same thing, better focus on basketball exclusively. My dad said, why don't you come to Panama, you play whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I did, and it was a wonderful experience my junior and senior year there, going to a smaller school, but I lived in Jamestown the entire time.
So you were just, because he went there, you would have been otherwise a tuition student in Panama.
I was a tuition student in Panama, that's correct.
Yeah.
Back then, we didn't have to sit 1 year out if we became a tuition student, didn't move into the district like you do now,
right.
In terms of sports, but it's what I did.
And your dad was quite the athlete as well as coach. Mm-hmm. Was that something that you thought you might get into as a profession?
Actually, right now I'm coaching the women's club basketball team at Edinburgh.
Why are you?
So I had, as my daughter was playing, I coached several years at Chautauqua Fusion. Myself and Chris Dole over the past few years have grown that into the largest girls' spring travel program in Chautauqua County. So we now have over 60 girls participating from 5th grade to 11th grade into 6 teams, and I got tired of seeing once these girls graduate, because only a small percentage play at college, them not playing at all.
Right.
So we started the women's club basketball team this year. Right now we're 4-1. We've beaten St. Bonaventure, we've beaten Welsh University, and we go to University of Pittsburgh this Sunday actually. So that should be a big test for us.
And here you are, you've got a unique background. Were you destined to be that? Was that something your mom and dad encouraged you to kind of do something a little bit different than teaching?
They didn't push me one way or the other.
Yeah.
They pretty much had me find my way.
Yeah.
So no, I mean it's my story. My story is a lot of finding my way. It's that's what I always say to people. You got to find what your true north is. And once you find it, you've got to stick to that path. And a lot of my story is trying to figure out what that was, mm-hmm. and then being persistent to make sure that that's what I do. I mean, life is too short to go day by day not doing something that you like to do.
So you graduated from Panama in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think you might go to a school far away, or did you just stay close to home?
I know what I wanted to do. So, they had that USA scholarship that if you finished in the top 20% of your high school class, you get free tuition. And I did at Panama, and I was the last one in the top 20%. And so I figured, just cost effectiveness, it made sense to go to JCC. And then what happened is, took the SATs because that's what you're supposed to do, and didn't really pay attention, rushed through it, and I bombed them. And I actually thought I was just a smart student, but just didn't always apply himself, and that scared me. And then I went to JCC, and I said, well, for one semester I'll try my hardest. And I got straight A's. Then I did it again, and then I did it again, and then I did it again. And so then I graduated from JCC, with a 4.0, got an academic scholarship to Bowling Green. A friend of mine was going there, and I started thinking at that time,
Bowling Green, Ohio.
Yeah, but then they started thinking maybe, okay, my grades are decent. Maybe I want to do something graduate school wise. But at that point in JCC, I'm still trying to figure out what I ended up with a math science degree somehow. I didn't try. It just all the classes just fit together, and that's what they gave me. So. Yeah.
So being out in Bowling Green, did your paths ever cross a professor named Doug Neckers? Does that ring a bell?
At Bowling Green?
Yeah.
What? Where did he teach?
He would have been in photochemistry. He was a climber guy. So I just
So Neckers is a big climber name. So I did. I was in business department.
Yeah.
But
we're not nice logically path. So you're at the Bowling Green, and at some point did you kind of gravitate a little bit towards pre-law?
So what I had thought is, I've got a good GPA right now. So what do I do with it, right? And when I was at JCC, I was in chemistry for about a week, if that, and because I had thought at some point, well, maybe I'll go into medicine, maybe I'll be a doctor, but it just wasn't for me. So at that point, I started to think about law, and my degree from Bowling Green is actually a major in business with a concentration in pre-law. So you got a little taste of different law classes, and I figured, well, I'll take some of those to see if I like it. And then if I do, then maybe I'll think I'll go to law school. So I really like the business classes, and I really like the law classes as well, and thought that might be a path that I would take.
Mm-hmm. Was there an aha moment where you said, all right, now I've got a little more focus?
No, and this is what I tell my students at Edinburgh, because I basically went from test to test, and I was always one to, I'd get up in the morning, I'd get my work done, and I'd be done at like 7 o'clock. And then in the evening, I would say, hey, you guys want to go out and watch Monday Night Football at the local tavern? And, well, I got a paper to write. So, but I was always just kind of focused on a college experience and getting good grades. But then really what happened is I had thought I'd go to law school right after getting my undergraduate degree. But then my last semester at Bowling Green, I kind of had a change of heart because I was tired of being poor. And I wanted to make money. And I thought, hey, I want to go to law school. I think I do, but maybe not right away. So the next part of the story has me coming home in December of 1990. I graduated in December, not knowing what I wanted to do, coming back to my parents' house, and didn't sit real well with my parents because we anticipate that our children are going to be, after college, they're going to be doing. And so I was really indecisive at that moment what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to go to law school, but not right away. I thought I wanted to work, but didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I kind of got caught up in, some of my friends are coming home from college and we're going out. And long story short, my parents basically said, if you don't start going on interviews, we're going to line them up for you. And my dad did. And I went to a barn, I think in Sherman, where the guy was making T-shirts and he wanted me to sell them. It's like, okay, I get the message. I'll go and I'll put my resume out. I'll figure out something right now. And so that's where we are at this point in the story, Greg.
Well, all right. You didn't want to sell T-shirts. Did you say, okay, I'm going to apply in the financial world or the securities world? Or
well, at that time, of course, I'm a business major, so I've taken principles of finance. And if you remember back in the 80s, that movie Wall Street came out, right? Yeah. And I remember watching it with my girlfriend a couple years prior, and I thought, that was kind of interesting, the whole stockbroker thing. Of course, we're in 1990, there was no internet at that point, so what we're doing in applying for jobs is we're getting the Erie paper and the Pittsburgh paper and the Cleveland and Buffalo, and we're looking at want ads and we're mailing resumes, right? Which is the way that we did it. And I see this advertisement for a stockbroker position up in Buffalo. Never heard of the company before. J.W. Gant is a company, and I applied for it, interviewed, got the position, had to study for my Series 7, studied for it, passed it, and I'm off to work at this stockbroker's company in Buffalo, which turns out to be, if you ever watch Wolf of Wall Street, yeah, it's that sort of firm, right? Yeah. I didn't know it at the time. But that was my first exposure to, the financial industry.
So you're in the boiler room, you're out there calling left and right, guys like me, any professional, anyways, thinking that you could help them.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you are 22 years old and you're unwise to the ways of the world, you're going to follow however they're going to lead you. And so if you watch Wolf of Wall Street, where they have all those scripts, right? And they go through the scripts, and any objection that the client would have, there's a counter. That's what was done. And these stocks were penny stocks. They were legitimate companies, but a lot of cold calling, a lot of rejection. But there were some, most of the makeup, they were all male, all of the brokers. Just about everybody was in their 20s. Some early 30s, because they get us all when we're young and naive. But after I got there about 6 months, there were some things that just weren't sitting right. And I had a buddy at Merrill Lynch, and I had told him about some of the ways that we were operating, and he said, it doesn't sound quite right, and realized I got to get out of there. okay, I got to make a move. So what had happened is at that time, Joe Pawalski, who prior to working at Merrill back then, taught with my mother because he was a former teacher, talked to Joe and had a good conversation, interviewed, and got hired at the Merrill Lynch office in Jamestown. So made my way back home then.
Where were they located then?
They were on Pine Street,
Okay.
where the I guess where the old DMV was.
Okay.
So I actually had an apartment which was above McDuff's, which was right across the street.
Yeah.
And for somebody in his 20s then, of course you had the Y right across, kitty corner. It was kind of a good place to be, And so now I'm into full service brokerage. So we're out of the cold calling. It's more consultative, and let's sit down and talk about your financial situation and formulate recommendations, and that's kind of where I was at that time.
So Merrill Lynch with Joe. Who else was in the Merrill Lynch at the time? Was Peter there? Peter Sullivan?
Peter had just left. And so at that time, what a lot of the Merrill brokers are trying to do, we're trying to retain his clients as he was taking them to where he was going.
Okay.
Of course, he came back circle and took them back, but but that's where we were at that time, because I had arrived shortly after Pete had left, and that's kind of where they were. It was kind of because the older Merrill brokers are still friends with him, and business is business, but that's kind of the atmosphere that I walked into.
You were there for how long?
How long was I there for? Look at my timeline here. See if I have it down. I was there for about more than a year, not quite 2 years. Mm-hmm. Now the problem is I was about 24 at the time. And so at Merrill, we have all these parameters that we have to meet. We have to bring in so many accounts, and we have to generate so much in gross commissions, and you have to bring in so much in assets under management. And I was good at bringing in accounts, but a lot of the accounts were smaller. So where I would have difficulty was meeting the requirements for assets under management and sometimes the commissions. Because as a 24-year-old, it's harder to connect with the people who have money, which are normally those in their mid 50s and up, just because of the age differential.
Sure.
So that's one thing that I was 24 and I probably looked like I was 19, and now the fortunate thing was that when you're in a firm like that, whenever I would get into a situation where I'm up for review, because I'm meeting the requirement for bringing the accounts in, they have what are called house accounts. So these are accounts of clients that maybe aren't assigned to a particular broker, and so what Joe would do is make sure that some went under my rep number, so I'd meet the numbers, and things were fine. I had a supportive manager, but make a long story short, Joe kind of made a career change for a while, and so he was no longer the manager. At one point in the story, they brought a new 26-year-old manager down from Buffalo to take Joe's place, and became pretty obvious he wasn't very supportive of this training program, and no more house accounts for me, and my days were numbered.
Law school then becomes a potential?
No, not yet. I'm still persistent. So what happens is I had a short stint at the Legend Group, and then Smith Barney came a knocking.
Yeah.
And so they were aware, and I'm a little bit older. I'm in my mid-20s, and at that time I'm going away. The industry's changing more from commission-based. They're going more to fee-only. In that, at that time, it was more percentage of assets under management, which is the way that I wanted to go. Had more leverage with Smith Barney, because now they're catering. They're trying to get me over there. So I said, okay, I'll come over, but I want to build the business the way that I want to. And if you're supportive of the fee-only, that's what I wanted to do. And so I went to Smith Barney. Once again, very productive, bringing accounts in. Accounts are now getting larger. I'm a little bit more experienced. But everything was percentage of assets under management. I'm doing like no commission-based stuff. And even though I was told that I could do that, it became obvious that they wanted me to do a mix, because commission-based were bringing more money today, percentage of assets under management more. And so we had this disconnect from the way that I wanted to build my practice to the way that they wanted to do it. So they didn't quite know what to do with me because it wasn't like I wasn't productive. I just wasn't following what they wanted. So they sent me up to Buffalo to the head manager. Little did they know at that time I had already set up my own RIA, was planning on going independent. So we had about an hour conversation with the manager up there, pretty clear that we're not seeing things in the same way. And I remember him asking me, well, Mike, what do you think we should do? And I remember saying, I'm letting you go. He said, what? He goes, you leaving the industry? I said, no, I'm letting you go. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to do it differently. I said, I wish you all the best, but letting you go. Now at this time, here I am, I'm 27. And you know, I'm a little bit brazen. That's what, maybe I'm young enough and stupid enough to think I'm going to go ahead and do this on my own. But that's what I did. And so I told the second largest brokerage firm in the nation at that time that I'm moving on from them and setting up my own RIA. And at that time, what I wanted to do is I wanted to go.
McCammon, what's that? What's that? RIA? What's that?
RIA, Registered Investment Advisor. So what I had the idea at that time is to set it up and to do it on an hourly basis, similar to the way that CPAs or attorneys were charging, rather than a percentage of assets under management. It's a different way of doing it. It's a niche. There's nothing like this around here. That's what I was going to do, going to build it from the ground up. The only problem is you're going to build a practice like that from the ground up, you don't have a lot of money coming in. Yeah. So what I did in those early years is I'd supplement, I would bartend weddings in Erie, do whatever I needed to do to get the bills paid. Well, I started building this thing. So that's what I did.
Where was your shop, here in Jamestown?
So where the DMV currently is located on 3rd Street in that office complex, that's where it was. So didn't know what to name it. Named it MB Engdahl and Company, real original. And I think it's because Pete named his PB Sullivan and Company. Somebody, so who's the company, they'd ask me. I said, well, I'm MB Engdahl, I'm a solo practitioner then. But I was happy because I was doing it, I was doing it my way, and I had a little entrepreneurial spirit, and not making a ton of money back then, but doing the way I wanted. But what I'm realizing now is too, like, I don't have a big name behind me. I don't have Merrill Lynch behind. I don't have Smith Barney behind me, and I need some more education too. And decided to pursue the CFP designation. So what I had to do is I had to take 5 courses distance ed. After passing those, I had to pass a 2-day, 10-hour difficult exam, the CFP exam. I had to meet an experience requirement, and I did all that. And by 1999, I had passed the CFP exam. Now I'm Michael Engdahl, CFP, and I'm getting some credibility behind me.
But still trying to make ends meet by doing these side gigs?
Still doing that, still bartending weddings and other things, and but it's working, and so what I would do, Greg, if I'm, I would bartend at some other places, but as the revenue would increase, I would just drop a shift. Yeah. And so eventually I'm dropping more, and now I'm down to just like bartending 1 day a week, and I actually enjoy bartending weddings. I did it at where the brewery is, in the little train station in Erie. That's where I would do it, and I actually enjoyed doing that, and I actually hung on to that for a while, just because it was enjoyable. My friend Jeff Rhodes is a CPA. You probably know Jeff. He started doing it with me, and even later, after I became an attorney and everything, Jeff and I are still, and it's like, you're a CPA and you're a CFP and an attorney, why are you still bartending weddings? It's our guy's day out. Yeah. we like doing it. So that's what I did. But after passing the CFP exam, then I'm like, well, what's next? Well, at this point, I'm married, and we don't have kids yet. My wife is pursuing her master's degree in speech pathology from Fredonia, and I'm thinking, this law school thing, like, all right, so here now I'm in my early 30s. Like, if I don't do it now, this is never going to happen. So it's do it now or don't do it. And applied to University of Buffalo, got accepted, and said, okay, let's go ahead and do this thing. So he said, well, why do I want to go to law school now? Well, first of all, it was a goal before, but second of all, as I'm getting into personal financial planning, I want to learn more about estate planning. I want to learn more about protecting assets for my clients from Medicaid, long-term care. So I have a bigger reason to do that. And so my whole thought, Greg, was what I would do is, after I got the law degree, is go back to Jamestown, probably expand my practice, maybe make it bigger. Once I have the law degree and I pass the bar exam, in addition to CFP, but life again took a different turn once I started there. So now we're into year 2000. I'm beginning law school at University of Buffalo. I had no idea how I made it through that first year. Had to go 5 days a week, driving back home, and I'm having appointments with clients when I get home. Had to commute. I commuted from Jamestown because this is where I live, and didn't intend. I thought, well, maybe I'll spread it over 4 years because there was an option, but I said, nah, just suck it up and try to get it done in 3. Once I got to year 2 and 3, now I could do my schedule because there were more electives. I could just go up 2 days a week, but that first year, 5 days a week, I still don't know how I got through it, but I did.
Did you take Ken Joyce there at all?
I did. So I took everything that Ken Joyce taught. So because after that first year, what I did is a lot of tax, a lot of estate planning, anything that was trusts, anything that was financial planning related, I took, which is the stuff that Ken taught. Outstanding professor. What he would basically do is we're always working through a continual problem, so it's this long problem like this case study that we just keep working on. But not everybody made it. I remember the hardest class I took was taxation and administration of trusts, taught by him. And if he didn't teach it, I don't think I would have made it through. But I remember going through it, and I looked at the student on my left and said, "Are you struggling with some of this?" And he said, "Yes." I said, looked at the student on my right and said, "Are you struggling?" She said, "Yes." Valedictorian, salutatorian of my class, right? So some were dropping out, but what I did is I had said to him, I said, "Listen, I love your class. We're getting into some in-depth stuff here, right? Do you mind if I have a standing appointment with you once a week? I'll come in with specific questions I have, just go through those. It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. So I would do that. I would meet with him once a week on that class and learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
Outstanding human being, outstanding professor. But yeah, took a lot of his stuff. Now here's another twist. I'm up at UB, I'm in my second year, and talking to a professor by the name of Cheryl Nichols, and she runs the UB Securities Law Clinic. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they represent small investors in arbitration cases against financial advisors, those cases that are too small for a regular attorney to take. And so I took broker-dealer regulation from her, told her a little bit about my background, and said, "Would you like to be a part of this?" And I'm like, "Sure, I don't know, because I'm a financial advisor and you guys are suing financial advisors." She said, and of course, as we're getting into this is year 2000, 2001. We have the tech stock bubble bursting. Yeah. My clients' accounts are down. And she's like, "Just understand it a little bit more." And so what I'm realizing is that in terms of legal liability, it's not that if your client's accounts are down, that's just a natural part of investing. It just was the recommendation, was it unsuitable for the client or was it imprudent for the client, right? Mm-hmm. And so take a look at some of the cases we're working on. And I took a look at them. I'm like, I'm not doing any of that stuff. And it was clearly the advisor was negligent or they were greedy, so and a lot of these were representing little old ladies that have $20,000 to their name, and the broker put all of their 100% of their IRA in a junk bond, and it just went down to zero when it obviously should have been diversified. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And so I became the student supervisor of the Securities Law Clinic. And so now I'm getting some experience in these securities arbitration cases. The other interesting thing that happened in my second year of law school, I get this postcard in the mail. It's from Evan Wardner. Now, Evan was the head of the CFP Board Register program at Medaille College. Mm-hmm. And to sit for the CFP exam, you have to complete an educational program that embeds about 70 financial planning topics. And at Edinburgh, we have one in our undergraduate program. But if you didn't take it in your undergraduate program, you have to take it through a certificate program. And that's what I had to do after I graduated. Well, he's looking to start one at Jamestown Community College, so Medaille at JCC. And I called Evan. I said, "Listen," I said, I don't need to take the classes. I'm already a CFP, but might be interested in teaching a class or two, because still looking for money, right?
Yeah.
At that point. And the other thing is I get continuing education through my CFP designation. Well, long story short is it never flew at JCC. But Evan said, wait a minute, are you coming up to Buffalo to finish your law degree? I said, yeah. He said, we have some classes we need taught up in Buffalo at Medaille College. Would you mind, you want to try teaching one? And I taught it, I got good reviews. Then he said, after that, he goes, well, we've got another one going on, but it's not on campus. It's at the Morgan Stanley office in Buffalo, and you would be teaching the Morgan Stanley registered reps and their branch managers, and there's a few CPAs downstairs. Do you want to teach them financial planning courses? I'm like, okay, I got up my game here, but I'll go ahead and do it. So now what happened is I'm in my third year. I'm going up to Buffalo. I'm getting there at 7:30 in the morning at the Morgan Stanley office, and I'm teaching them investments, and I'm teaching them estate planning, I'm teaching them retirement planning. I basically taught them all of the courses that they needed to get through the certificate program. Then I'm going to UB for law school, right? And then I'm also working in a securities law clinic, and I'm coming back home, and I'm still building this financial planning practice. So that's where I was in year two and three. Now again, at this point in terms of my wife, fortunately, she's up to her neck in classwork with her master's degree in speech pathology, and we don't have any kids. So would never be able to do that right now, but at that stage in my life, I was able to do it. 2003, graduate from law school. Like this teaching thing, but think I might want to teach part-time, do something, but I have no occasion to go to Buffalo anymore. Medaille is probably not going to work. Send out a few resumes to universities that have CFP board registered programs. Say, hey, I might be interested in teaching on a part-time basis. Going to go back to Jamestown, expand my financial planning practice. And I get a bite from Edinburgh. And Edinburgh says, hey, we don't have any part-time positions, but we've got a full-time tenure track position, and we need somebody who has teaching experience, who has a JD and a CFP to teach business law and financial planning courses. Never thought about teaching full-time before, but tenure track position, it's a salary. So I got a base salary. I can still do my financial planning practice when I'm not teaching. Let's give it a shot for a year.
Sure.
Okay, so I did that. 20 years later, still there. 20 years later, my financial planning practice did expand, and I do some legal work. I'll do some estate planning. I've done securities arbitration cases, and I'll get to that a little bit later in the story. I've done expert witness stuff, but 20 years later, I'm still there. But it's and I tell people, I'm an accidental professor. I never intended.
Sure.
It just life takes certain turns.
What a great story. Yeah.
Now, also done with UB in 2003. Cheryl refers me to a couple of attorneys in Buffalo, Don McGrath and Joanne Schultz, who are doing a lot of securities arbitration work, right? And the reason is that they're cleaning up this mess from the tech stock bubble bursting. So there's a lot of arbitration cases. And Mike, would you consider being an expert witness, right? And so they're representing investors in claims. And so, who's the Phillips Lytle guy who did a lot of those? Do you remember? Back then? I'm trying to remember who he was. So it was Don back then. I'm pretty sure the other one was from Phillips Lytle that we would normally go against. But so what they would want me to do is they want me to explain, like, maybe somebody started with $500,000 in their portfolio. 2 years later, it's worth $25,000. There was no withdrawals from the portfolio. How did we get from here to there? And so I would have to break down, well, part of it was, the market went down. Part of it was they put an over-concentrated position in technology stocks, which went belly up. And then we had trading on margin, and then we had excessive fees and commissions. So I had to explain all that. Plus, I would have to calculate what the opportunity cost damages were, like what would a suitable portfolio have grown to over that relevant period of time as compared to what it fell to. So I started doing a lot of work for them, and it was hourly based work, and they were killing it with these arbitration cases, and of course they're getting paid on contingency fees. I did that for a couple of years, and now we're getting into what, 2005. My wife's getting on me. I said, Mike, you haven't sat for that bar exam yet. Graduated in 2003, it's now 2005. I said, honey, I don't have time to sit for it. I'm teaching, I'm doing this. She goes, you got to sit for the bar exam. And she goes, you got to do it over winter break. Winter break's only 4 weeks, right? I said, I don't care. So winter break, I guess in 2005, cracked the book open, locked myself in a room for 4 weeks, studied for it, got the bar exam passed somehow. And now I'm an attorney. And as times are going on, we're moving out of, as we're getting into the later, we're going past 2008 when we had the housing crisis. Now there's a lot of other cases out there. And what I said to Don and Joanne, I said, if we work together again, I'm with you guys. I'm going to be an attorney. I'm going to take some cases on my own. So, and I remember the first case that I had, and this is kind of the best story, I went in, we actually went to arbitration, and I just killed it. And I got back from my client every dollar that we asked for, plus the opposing counsel offered $40,000 extra to never talk to anybody about this again and sign a confidentiality agreement. I said, well, I can do this thing if I want. And so I went through a string where I did some securities arbitration cases. Haven't done a whole lot recently because until the recent market pullback from after 2008 going forward, the market went up for a while. And at least at this point in my life too, I'm at the point, I don't want as many battles as I did before. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you're younger, you want the battle because you think you have something to prove. And at this point where I am right now, I'm still teaching at Edinburgh, made myself all the way through the ranks, full tenure professor. I've had 7 publications in law review journals, had a good spot, private practice, pretty much just like to work with my existing clients that I've had for a while. Normally have a pet project. I've been coaching basketball for a while. Before that, I think, as you know, Greg, I did a lot of work with building up that Chautauqua Striders Athletic Club when I was running. So there's always something a little bit on the outside that I like to do just apart from work. But for about the last 10 years, I've been kind of following just that pattern. So still don't have any desire to retire anytime soon, but want a little bit more balance and quality of life. You realize that you want to take more trips, spend more time with the family. Not ready to retire tomorrow, but money's not the issue that it was in the past. And so that's kind of where I am.
Striders, you mentioned that. Ron Graham just passed away.
Yeah.
Did your paths cross with him at Striders?
Not much, because Ron founded it. And it's a very, very interesting organization because I was on the board on it for many years, but started out as a track club. And then what Ron did, he had the foresight to say, hey, if we get these kids' academics up, we can actually get them to get them into college. Well, as time went on, the academic component, the tutoring aspect of it, really took off, mm-hmm. right? And there's still this track component. I mean, they still have runners and track and field athletes compete in U.S. Track and field nationals, and then we started the running club, the athletic club, for basically your runners and walkers here locally, and it had helped to develop a lot of those local road races. But the nice thing is that coming around full circle, and I mentioned chemistry, right, and my struggles with chemistry. Well, my daughter, who wants to go into nursing, had to take chemistry at Southwestern, right? And she said, Dad, can you tutor me on it? And I sat down with it for about 10 minutes. I said, no, me, I cannot. But we contacted Striders, and she had a wonderful tutor, right? And the strides that Mia made in her chemistry class was nothing short of phenomenal with the support that she's gotten. So it's nice that when you work with an organization and then it comes around and you see it firsthand personally, like as a board member, like you know what they're doing. But as a parent, to see them help your kid and say, yeah, they're really doing what it is that we thought that they were doing when I'm sitting there on the board. So
as you're looking at the camera here, and somebody who is graduating from college and they come into your office and say, Mike, do you have any advice for me? What would you give it to them?
what would I say to them?
Mm-hmm.
I first of all, follow your true north. Figure out what that is. Okay, now the other thing, and I told you this on the phone, right? I'm kind of turning into a mini Greg Peterson. Because one of the things that we did at Edinburgh is that with our personal financial planning majors, what we want them to know is we want them to know what their career paths are. So there's a lot of different paths that they can take. And as you know, everybody has their own unique story. So created this class, I don't know, about how many years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, called Financial Planning Profession. And it's all about career readiness. And I think more majors in colleges need that. And we do an intense resume review. We have them go and get certified with certain financial planning software called eMoney, and just to build things, have them build their resume. But the other thing that we do is if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, probably on Monday, Wednesday, we'll always have a speaker from the industry. So we have all these speakers from the personal financial planning industry, all different. Your big wirehouses, your fee-only firms, your medium-sized fee-only firms, smaller fee-only firms, people doing it on a retainer, percentage of assets under management, hourly, Vanguard Financial Advisor Development Program, which is a financial advice side from this company, which is historically a mutual fund company, those from Schwab, all different paths. The insurance industry, all different paths, right? So we interview them, right? So it's more of like what you're doing is I'll basically let them talk. Every once in a while, I'll interject a question. And then the students will listen to them twice a week. And so what will happen as they're going through this is sometimes they'll listen to the speaker and say, not in a million years would I want to do what that guy or gal does. But other times it really resonates and says, that's what I want to do. And so what I would say to younger people is that the more stories that you can hear from people who are in the industry, the closer you get to what it is that you want to do, and you've got to follow your own path. And I have, I'm sure you know Todd Allen from Morgan Stanley, right? So Todd and I always remained friends. He was at Smith Barney when I was there. We're around the same age. We live in the same subdivision, right? And so our paths went very different. It wasn't the right fit for me in the large wirehouse setting. It was a perfect fit for Todd. And so I don't want students to come away with looking at well, should I work for a big wirehouse or should I not? Depends on you, right? So I tell my story, but I want them to hear Todd's story because what's wrong for me might be completely right for you, and vice versa. But I think more students need to get that before they graduate from college, because I don't want to see them coming home after graduation, especially being a good student, like I did, just having no idea what I wanted to do. So I think the more that they get centered and get focused while they're in college, what they want to do is just going to have them get a leg up. But that just comes from going out there and extracting information. Everybody's got their own story, but I like to see more of that. And this is one of the things for all different majors, that sort of career readiness class for all majors, because I think with college, the number one thing that we want to do, we want to educate them, but we also want to help them and make connections that they can get a good job to embark in a good career upon graduation.
Well, as an attorney, did you ever get reeled into doing something which was kind of what people perceive attorneys doing? Were you ever dragged into court as a law guardian? Did you ever get on a list here at Chautauqua County?
No, I've really, Greg, just kind of kept what I've done. I've done the securities arbitration stuff. I've done what I call some light estate. So I'll do the estate plan. I don't like doing the probating. But in terms of that other stuff, and I'll say in any area of the law, you're going to be good at what you do on a daily basis. And if it's not something that you do on a daily basis, then you're probably not going to be that good on it. So I never got, in terms of getting on the list of any of that stuff, because at that point, what I was doing is going to be very limited as it was. So, I have an extremely niche practice. But to answer your question, no. You know, in terms of criminal stuff, other than trying to get somebody pled down to a speeding ticket, that's about as far as I've gone.
And you'll be working on that.
I'll be working on that later today. Yep.
What's a question I should have been asking you, Mike?
Question that you should have been asking me. I don't think there's anything that I can think of that you should have asked me that you have not already asked me. And I'm just kind of looking through what my story is. I've watched you, and you do a good job of just leading and letting those people talk, you know. And I've watched enough Greg Peterson interviews. You have no idea. I would actually sit and watch your interviews on YouTube to try to figure out how to interview. And so, you know, the only thing, and I've expressed this to you on the phone, and, you know, because like I wouldn't be interviewing all of these people in the financial services industry for them to tell their stories to my students if I didn't see you do it first. And so you think about like how you do, you know, what we do on a daily basis, how it affects other people, and how those people affect other people, right? But I have always found what you do interesting because you find other people interesting, right? And that's pretty much why you do what you do. But there's also other people who find other people interesting, right? So I'm just curious about if any of this from others that you interview actually comes back to you. I mean, your curiosity about people, you know, has that also been contagious to other people to make them more curious about people? Because that's really sparked that interest in me. So I just want to say thank you to you for everything that you've done with all these interviews, whether it's going to be attorneys or if it's going to be sports, or, I mean, you're always digging to uncover this information. And, you know, some of that information is really important stuff for some people.
Well, thank you. Very nice. This has been fun. Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it.